work on a task, opposite styles get along best. And the reason is the strengths of one style compensate for the weaknesses of the other. So there's a balance. So what styles get along best? Thinker-relater, director-relater, socializer-relater. Do you see a pattern here? Everybody gets along with the relators. Everybody. Moderately compatible, thinkers with thinkers, relators with relators, socializers with thinkers, and the least compatible, two directors, because they're always butting heads with each other. They have their own goals and objectives, the ways they want to do things. Let's do it my way or the highway. Why would socializer be the lowest compatible group when it comes to work? Work. Come on. Hey, did you hear the one about? Style compatibility socially. Birds of a feather flock together. Like styles get along best in a social environment. So, notice, thinkers with thinkers, relators with relators, socializers with socializers. Wait a second. What's missing? Directors. They're still competing with each other, even socially. They don't even want to go out. I got work to do. But they're in the next group. Moderately compatible. And the least compatible, director, relator, socializer, thinker, are the diagonals. They have the least in common. All right, here's your pop quiz, ladies and gentlemen. I've taken you through a whole bunch of information, and I want to see how well you've assimilated it and how well you can project. So, what would you say is the ideal vehicle chosen by a socializer? Built for them. A convertible, a sports car, a Porsche, a Ferrari, Maserati, Corvette. What color? Red. Absolutely. Ideal vehicle for a relator. A minivan. Yeah, you can bring the family. Come on, we got room. Thinkers. Volvo. Volvo. Safe. Built well. Quality. Reliable. Ideal vehicle for a director. Get out of my way or I'm going to go right over you. By the way, let's take it another step. Every style has a theme song, a song that captures the essence of who they are and how they go about doing what they do. What would you say is a theme song chosen by over 90% of all directors? Oh, they love this song. They sit up a little straighter, puff out a little. Yeah, my way or the highway. But only 90% choose that song. The other 10% feel it's too weak. They want something a little stronger. Ideal song for a thinker. So I usually don't get one. When I do, it's usually, well, opera, jazz, classical. Classical's the key. Could you imagine a thinker on a bad day when all of their negatives come out? They question too much. They're more analytical. They're overly analytical. And they're called in to the local symphony. Symphony's losing money. So they call this analytical thinker in, who's a consultant. And they say to the analytical thinker, how could we make more money and make this symphony more profitable? So the thinker starts analyzing and over-analyzing.
I just completed this report. First of all, the orchestra seemed to be operating quite efficiently, but then on closer inspection, it became apparent that there was a lot of waste and inefficiency. The oboes, for example, were on stage throughout the entire piece, but they only played 10% of the time. The woodwinds frequently just repeated notes that had already been played. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, an obvious and clear duplication. Violins and violas, they could rarely even be heard above the din of the other instruments, and they could probably be done away with altogether. My calculations show that by getting rid of the unnecessary instruments and by cutting the running time of the piece by a third, substantial savings could be had not only in salaries, but in overhead expenses, lighting, heating, electricity, rental time for the auditorium, all sorts of things. The bottom line in this business is profit and loss, minimax, minimizing expenses and maximizing profits. If the symphony puts my study into effect, they'll have more people units seeing shorter music units, enjoying it more, it'll cost less, and their profits will be greater.
So proud. Ideal song for a relator. Feelings, right? You've got a friend. People. People who need people are the luckiest people in the whole world. But any song where they can put their arms around each other and sway back and forth, right? Kumbaya, right? Anything like that. Where are my relators? Relators, come on. Oh, they love that stuff. They love participation. And of course, of all four styles, nobody loves love songs more than the relators. So it just stands to reason that their favorite artist, or one of their favorite artists, would be... They get a little embarrassed. Then they lean over and say, you know, I really do like him. Ideal song for a socializer. How many want to dance right now? Yeah. Okay. Let us go into our last section here before break, and that is, how do you practice adaptability with each style? So let's talk about directors. With directors, key thing is making sure that you understand and support and reinforce their goals and objectives. Another thing is to keep the relationship businesslike. Don't get chummy with them. You know, get right to the point, bottom line it with them. What you want to do is provide, as I mentioned before, options with brief supporting analysis so that they can make a quick decision. And above all else, treat them rapidly. This is a crucial point. Now listen to this. One of the worst things you can do with a director is build up to the point. They do not want that. Whatever the key point is, you say it. Sales are down 32%. And here's why. And then they want you to hit them right between the eyes, and if they have other stuff that they need to know, whereas with thinkers, you do the exact opposite. You are building up with the points to the key. All right? So, how about thinkers? Some of the things to focus on with thinkers. Actions, not words. I'm from Missouri. Don't tell me, show me. They don't care about your opinion, other people's opinions. They want to see it in writing. Be systematic, exact, prepared. All right, don't go in and try to wing it with them. You might get away with that with socializers, but you will definitely get slapped down when it comes to thinkers. Anytime you are presenting something to them, list the advantages as well as the obvious disadvantages. And I'll tell you why the obvious. I'm not saying to list out all the disadvantages, but certainly the obvious disadvantages. Because if they're obvious, do you think that the thinkers will find them? Yeah. And if they find them and you didn't tell them, that is, to them at least, a lie of omission. A lie of omission means you cannot be trusted. Kiss that sale goodbye. Provide proofs, guarantees, and put it in writing. They don't want your word. They want it in writing. And above all else, treat them precisely. Relators. Key thing, make sure you show personal interest and listen to them. Remember, they are the best listeners. They want reciprocity here. They want to see how well you listen to them. Give them time to trust you. They're not going to make a key decision. They're not going to buy something until they trust you. That's a key. Provide guarantees and personal assurances. Now, with thinkers, you've got to put it in writing. With relators, it's just your word. I'll tell you one thing that really, really works with relators. After a sale, even before the sale, you say to them, look, if anything goes wrong, I want you to know my company will stand behind the product, but more than my company, I stand behind the product. And pull out your business card, you give the business card. Here's my business card. Give it back to me for a second. Write down your personal home phone number. Here's my home phone number. Now, I want you, if you cannot get me at the office, if you cannot get what you need at my office, whether it's me or somebody else, I want you to call me at home. Anytime, day or night, you call me at home. 3 o'clock in the morning, call me at home. I am the one who's going to take care of you personally. Now, what would that do for relators? They're just going, whoa, whoa. Now, never, ever do that with directors, because they will call you at 3 in the morning, just out of spite. Above all else, treat them friendly. Socializers. Key thing with socializers, support their ideas and dreams. Sometimes they are way out there, but don't criticize, shoot them down, say that's impossible, that's ridiculous. Summarize in writing. Who is to do what, when, where, how, and why. Do not just verbally agree to things, because a week later you'll say, I did my part, did you do yours? They say, do what? No, I never said that. Use testimonials and incentives to positively affect their decisions. They love stories of triumph, other people using your product or service and having incredible results with it. But above all else, treat them dynamically. Let me summarize. One word per style. This you can take to the bank. If you just remember this word, it will double your adaptability. No matter what you're doing, whether it's sales, service, one-to-one communicating, it doesn't matter. If you're doing any of these activities with a relator, I'm asking you to treat them friendly, with warmth, with feeling, with sincerity. With thinkers, whatever you do, make sure you do it precisely and accurately. Here's a rule of thumb. Whenever you are dealing with thinkers, which tend to be one of the toughest, if not the toughest style to sell, here's how you will improve your results dramatically. Whatever you do, if you're doing it with a thinker, make sure it is well planned, well organized, and well documented. You do that, you got them. With directors, whatever you do it and get out. And if you're going to give them anything in writing, how many pages? One, that is it. Fit it on a single page. Socializers, whatever you do, make it an event. A little bit more playful, more verbal give and take. Now, let me tell you what we're going to do when we come back from break. When we come back from break, I'm going to talk about selling specifically. And how many of you, just one more time, are in the business of either getting or keeping customers? Can I see your hands? Getting and or keeping customers. You do not want to miss the second half, because I have very specific tools on how to get and keep customers. I learned many years ago that there's a big difference between making a sale and making a customer. Now, I learned that on my first full-time sales job in 1966. It's a long time ago. I was working my way through college, figured the best way to earn money for tuition, etc., was to go out and sell. Now, not just sell, but sell on 100% commission door to door. Now, I did not have a good career counselor back then. So the product that I chose was a little unusual. I was selling cookware, pots and pans, door to door. Now, I know a lot of people complain about their products and the price being so high, or competitors being lower priced. But put this into perspective. In 1966, I was selling a 10-piece set of cookware for $300. It gets worse. 4 of the pieces were lids. There were just 6 pots. But in my first 9 weeks, went out and sold over $11,000 worth of cookware, Counting my commissions, sales contest winnings, bonus, I was making more than my father, more than most of my friends' parents. So by anybody's definition, I should have felt good, right? But something was wrong. Couldn't identify it back then, couldn't put my finger on it, but something wasn't right. Now back then, we were taught when we went out and did our sales presentation to give a canned, memorized presentation, verbatim, word for word, couldn't deviate a word. We were taught, contrary to what was being taught back then, we were taught never ever ask for referrals immediately after you make the sale. Instead, we were taught as soon as you make the sale, get out before they change their mind. My target market, single women between the ages of 18 and 21 who were working full-time. I was 19 at the time, and I was working on my double prospecting system, but that's a whole other story. But I think it was when I delivered the cookware and I asked for referrals. And the response that I got that gave me this feeling something wasn't right. So, what's your first name?
Dana.
Dana. It's my daughter's first name. Dana. All right, so Dana, let's make believe that I'm delivering the cookware. You don't have to say or do anything, but I'm delivering the cookware to Dana. This is exactly verbatim, even choreographed. You know, they had these little things, you know, what I'm supposed to do as I'm saying these words. So this is exactly what I did. And you tell me if something doesn't feel right or sound right. Dana, what I want you to do, go get your appointment book. You and I were going to sit down. We're going to go through it page by page. And you're going to give me the names of all your friends who you believe should take advantage of the same opportunity you yourself took. Now, notice how I asked. I did not ask, Dana, do you have a book? No. Nor did I ask, Dana, would you please get the book? No. This was Jersey. Dana, get the book. Let's sit down. Now, invariably, Dana, people like Dana, they'd look at me, and their first response would be, I can't get the book. I would say, what do you mean you can't get the book? You don't have a book? She'd say, yeah, I have a book, Tony. I know a lot of people. It's not that I can't get the book. I won't get the book. You won't get the book? What does that mean, you won't? She said, I won't get the book, Tony, because I don't want you to do to my friends what you did to me. Hey, what did I do? She looked me right in the eye and said, Tony, you sold me. That's what I was supposed to do. That's what I was taught to do. Did it pretty well. But the way she said it had a very different meaning, didn't it? You sold me. People love to buy. Never, ever want to feel that they've been sold. When they feel they've been sold, they feel they've been had, taken advantage of. And this happened over and over and over again. After a while, I decided I could not sell the cookware anymore. I naively believed that the problems I was experiencing were not the result of the approach that I was taking, but the product I was selling. So what did I do? Instead of changing my approach, I changed my product. So I started selling mausoleums. I needed a counselor. Did that for 1 year till I ran out of prospects. Sold life insurance for a year. Sold burglar and fire alarms for a year. Until I finally got it. Wasn't the products, because I was getting the same results. It was my approach. I finally realized in the early 70s that maybe, instead of changing the products, maybe I should change my approach. So I started looking for another approach to selling, an approach that made me feel good about what I was doing, made me feel proud about what I was doing, but more importantly, made my customers feel comfortable about what I was doing. Now, in 1979, all of that research led to my first book, which was called Non-Manipulative Selling. Now, over the years, I changed the title. Today, I call it Collaborative Selling. Non-manipulative selling was too difficult to pronounce. So today it's collaborative selling. But here's what I realized. In doing all my research, I realized that anybody who is in the business of getting or keeping customers. By the way, just out of curiosity, how many of you fall into that category? Your responsibility in your job is either to get and or keep customers. Can I see your hands? All right, good. So I have plenty of people in here. I realize that anybody in the business of getting and keeping customers has to go through a series of steps before they get to the ultimate position in terms of a relationship with their customers or clients. Now again, anybody in sales knows that the very first step that you have to do is to find a prospect. How many of you actually prospect? Can I see your hands? All right, how many of you actually do cold calls? Can I see your hands? How many like cold calls? A lot fewer. A lot fewer. So here's the issue. In prospecting, there's a whole series of skills that we need to develop to master appropriate, effective prospecting. I call them marketing skills. All of those things that you do to uncover prospects and eventually get in front of them. Now, when I was selling, everything was activity. You know, go out, call on as many people as you can, and through the law of averages, through percentages, you're going to get some appointments and you're going to make some sales. It wasn't working smarter necessarily, it was just simply working harder. So I would be calling on all these prospects, whether they had a need or not, whether they were profitable or not, whether they had whether they were doing business with one of my competitors or not. It did not matter. We just called on everybody and anybody. Quantity was the key. But today, and probably even back then, that is really not the way to sell, is it? In prospecting, what we want to do is call on the best prospects, the primo prospects, at least initially, until we run out of those. Now, how many of you are familiar with a concept called Pareto's Principle? Anybody? Pareto's Principle? What is it? 20-80 rule. 20-80 rule. Now, the 20-80 rule basically says, in general, 20% of our customers give us 80% of our revenue, or 20% of our customers give us 80% of our profit. 20% of our products give us 80% of our sales. 20% of our products give us 80% of our profit. 20% of the salespeople in an organization make 80% of the sales. I mean, we can go on and on. So here is the key, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to prospecting. I would like you to look into your customer database and identify, however you want, who the top 20% is. It could be profitability, it could be volume, it could be ease of selling, it could be a certain category of needs that they might have, it could be that they're pleasant to do business with, it could be customer retention, however you want to define it. But when you come up with your top 20%, I want you to paint a picture, write it down, of what these people might have in common. What is it about these top 20% that I could use in my prospecting efforts so that when I go out and prospect, I want to prospect initially, primarily, maybe even solely, for new prospects who fit the profile of the top 20%. Does that make sense? We want to look for new prospects who fit the profile of the top 20%. Now, by the way, the 20-80 rule works the exact opposite way, too. 20% of our customers give us 80% of our grief and aggravation. How many of you believe that? How many of you have at least one customer, at least one, that you'd rather not have? You have that? I'd like to fire that person. You know, too often, we have focused so much on increasing the number of customers we have. We have focused too much on market share, not enough on profitability. I'm in business for myself, and I learned early, thank goodness I learned early, that there is a big difference, ladies and gentlemen, big difference between gross and net. What would you rather have? Right? If you're a business person, you want net. Net's more important than gross. No question about it. I want profitability. I don't want money-losing, whining, complaining customers. Now, there are businesses today that are actually looking at their customers and saying, you know what? All customers are not created equal. Some are better than others. Some are worse than others. And in fact, the ones where we are losing money, the ones where we are spinning our wheels, the ones that are complaining, the ones that are abusing our employees. You ever have a customer that abused employees? So what they did is they decided that they were going to look at this bottom 20% and cut a bunch of them out. Now, you've heard this whole category about rating your prospects, grading your prospects.